Hey everybody, what's going on? Slick D Gamer, Scott W. Perry here, and welcome to another edition of Play Favorites, where I list my favorite games on a particular topic. And for this one, I'm going old school. I'm doing really old school on this one. I'm going to talk about the very first console I played and owned, and that is the Atari 2600. Released in 1977, which was the year I was born. The Atari 2600, originally known as the Atari VCS, is considered one of the most popular consoles of all time. Now, yes, it's primitive, and yes, it's very dated, but it really is an influential console that sets the stage for many to come. I don't think we would have had some of these consoles we have today if it wasn't for the success of this. Despite the 2600 being responsible for the video game crash of 1983, which I do remember fondly, as a 6-year-old wondering why games were so cheap and I couldn't get any anymore. But the 2600 really showed the power of what gaming can do. They made a lot of mistakes that were rectified later by other companies, but sometimes pioneers, they tend to we don't fully appreciate it until later in life, and I think Atari is one of those that gets that due. The 2600 is a console. I've purchased a lot of Atari flashback consoles. I still have some games. I don't have a 2600 regular console yet. I will soon, but I do still collect some games for it, and there's some games I've always had. But I want to list some of my favorite games that came out for the 2600. And the first one I want to talk about, we had mentioned this in my previous play favorite, Star Wars. One of the ones I played, this was the very first Star Wars game I can remember, and that is Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. And this was a Parker Brothers game. It's an Atari 2600 game. It also came out for the Sears Video Arcade. One of the reasons why the crash happened was that everybody and their grandmother was making a console, and nobody knew which was the right one to get. And you could play this on multiple consoles, but I primarily played this on the 2600. And it's a very simple game. It is just, you are a snowspeeder fighting the AT-AT walkers in the Hoth sequence, and you just got to fire them and shoot them. There's no real ending to it because in the movie, eventually the Empire takes over Hoth. So it actually, believe it or not, is accurate to the movie because you're just trying to destroy as many AT-AT walkers as you can. It's still, pardon me, it's still fun to this day. I enjoy playing it, and I didn't listen to my play favorites for Star Wars because this did come out before Jedi's came out in 1982. But I still enjoy this, and I think it's a lot of fun. They released 4 Star Wars games for the system. I have 3. The Star Wars Arcade is a little hard to find version of it, but why do it when I have the main one up there? But Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, definitely a favorite of mine. Another favorite of mine is, it's again, it kind of shows how dated the Atari 2600 can be when they try to emulate or do some things from the past. And in the early 1980s, this game came out. Actually, this was 1983, so this was near the end of everything. And it was made by Activision. They're in a little bit of trouble right now currently, but at the time they were good. But this game I really liked. I thought it was a lot of fun. Keystone Capers. Which was based off the Keystone Cops of the 1920s. So this was pretty much nearly 50 years after it. Now we're almost 100 years after the Keystone Cops. But it was a very fun game. You play a cop and you're trying to catch a criminal, and pretty much looks like a department store in many different levels, and you're running around and you got to dodge and jump certain things and you got to catch them. Very simple game, but I always found it very fun in terms of trying to get the bad guy, get the crook, as they called him in this game. Harry Hooligan is the man you're trying to catch, and and you are playing Keystone Kelly, Officer Kelly, so one of the Keystone Cops. This was I'm reading it off the back because, it's been a while since I actually looked at the cover, so bear with me. But this was a really fun game. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's one that, on emulated consoles and on the flashback, it's one that I play quite a bit. That is Keystone Capers. Now, the next one is a popular arcade game, but I remember it fondly on the 2600. It's one I played forever when I was a kid, pardon me. One that I played forever as a kid, and it's one that I actually prefer the 2600 version over the arcade. No, it's not Pac-Man. Don't relax, it's not Pac-Man. Even though I have Pac-Man. But I actually enjoyed this better on the 2600 in the arcade, and that's Asteroids. Asteroids I thought was a lot of fun. It was colorful. I think that might be the main reason why I enjoyed it more on the 2600, because the original Asteroids, although the graphics were better in the arcade, it was black and white. Where in this one it was color, and to me it just played a little bit better. I thought it had, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, it's a very simple game. You're just a ship trying to destroy all the asteroids, and I think the color scheme, it really showed off the colors that the 2600 can do at the time, in a very well done way. Very simple, very fun, and again, high score wins. Asteroids for the Atari 2600, one of my favorites for the system for sure. Now, I'm going to be doing a future episode on horror-based games, and one of my favorites, one of my favorite horror franchises and games overall is Resident Evil, and the survival horror series has been a staple in gaming now. But there's one game I think that really started it all, and it was a game I really liked, and believe it or not, helped introduce me to the world of horror. I am a filmmaker. I have made some horror films. I'm actually going to be publishing my first horror novel next year, which I'll discuss at a later time, where you'll be able to pick that up. It's finished. I'm just editing it. And one of the main inspirations for that, I think, came from this game. And it's a simple but yet fun game, and it's one I still play to this day. And that is what I call the original survival horror game, Haunted House. All right. And in this game, it actually has a bit of a story on it. You inherited, basically you play a guy who inherited a house, and there's a ghost, there's a bat, there's monsters. It's really fun. There's like creepy spiders, and all you are just a set of eyes, because there's no power in the house. So you have to use like a flashlight and try to find the remnants of your great uncle's urn, and you got to find the key to get it in. And once you have everything together, you basically get his inheritance. You have to escape the urn, and you have to find the urn, pardon me, and escape the mansion before you get scared to death. And when this game came out in 1981, this is 40 years ago. I remember, I was 4 years old at the time when this came out, and this scared me. I was 4. Get over it. All right, but it was a lot of fun. It is one I still play to this day. It's interesting, on the flashbacks, they have a Return to Haunted House, which I think was made just for that. It's not good. I don't really care for it too much. I'll play the original all the time. Haunted House for the Atari 2600, definitely one of my favorites. But when it comes to the Atari 2600 overall, there is one game above all that I love more than anything. It's actually one of my favorite all-time games, and it's a game that when it came out in 1982, I love it. I enjoy it. There's been a lot of spin-offs with it. It's gained an immense popularity to it. It was really groundbreaking at the time. And it's one that, if you've seen the original commercial, it marked the debut performance of probably one of the most popular comic actors today, Jack Black. It is made by Activision, when Activision was good, before they started harassing everybody. I'm sorry. Allegedly. But this is, without a doubt, my favorite Atari 2600 game, made by the great, legendary David Crane, Pitfall. Oh, I can't say enough great things about Pitfall. Now, there's a few reasons why I love this game, okay? Number one, you got to play as a human, which was groundbreaking at the time. Every time you were just a dot, you were just, in the case of Haunted House, you were just eyes. In this case, Pitfall, you were Pitfall Harry, and you're trying to find a treasure. To this day, I haven't gotten a perfect score after playing it for 39 years. You think I would have it by now, but I don't. But I really enjoy the game. I think it's great. It is challenging. It was such a trendsetter at the time. And I think one of the reasons why this was popular is that this came out right after the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. Now, Raiders of the Lost Ark had a 2600 game, which I did like. It is a favorite of mine. It's a little difficult, and it's a game that when I was a kid I couldn't master because you needed two controllers and there was a lot to it. But I preferred to play Pitfall over it. And I did imagine at the time that Pitfall and Indiana Jones were kind of similar. So I think that really helped in the development and in the, in the mindset of getting this game perfect. But I absolutely adore Pitfall. I think it's one of the greatest games ever made. And when it comes to the Atari 2600, it's definitely, Pitfall is definitely my favorite Atari 2600 game. So that is it for another edition of Play Favorites. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I really wanted to go old school on this one and really show you, the genesis of video games and everything like that. And, we should appreciate consoles like the 2600. And even though, like I said, Activision Blizzard, they're having some problems today, I still think we should appreciate the games in the past. We don't appreciate who runs it now, but appreciate auteurs like David Crane and the original Activision team for being able to provide such good games for us to really allow some of our imaginations to grow. And I do appreciate that, and I appreciate everything that came to it. So for that's another edition of Play Favorites. I hope you take care, and I hope I listed some of yours. If you have any that you like, please list them in the comments below. And if you can, subscribe to my channel and enjoy what else we have. I'm Sleek D Gamer, Scott W. Perry, signing off. Take care. Have a happy holidays, everyone.